So I'm going to take a really fast broker moment. We are in the season. I hope you realize that. So I wanted to talk about Jackie's listing because I was talking with one of the buyer agents this morning about it. So we have one. I'm kind of hoping I can talk her into taking his offer, but we'll see what we can do. Um, anyway, Jackie, 13 offers, and then you're negotiating with 3 or so. It's 3 or 4. I just was when that, okay. So some of the dangers, I just listed some of the dangers. Are there any ones that I missed? What are some dangers of having multiple offers? I wrote up here that buyers could overpay. They're probably overpaying. Um, Sometimes sellers could lose a really good buyer because buyers say, yeah, I'm not going to get into a bidding war. Um, the other thing is appraisal issues. If there's a loan involved, um, he has a cash offer to Sam. And then also the real danger is seller could sell that home more than once. And that's the real danger. So we have an addendum for that. This is on the MLS. I hope you guys are using it. This is the multiple offers. Let me get this here. Multiple offers counter offer. So you can send multiple counters. Jackie said you sent it to 3. All 3 of them got, I'm assuming, the same counter offer. So they got different counter offers. Okay. But you can counter offer more than one party. But what if one party accepts it? Not a problem. Look at paragraph 3 in there, and it's really small, so you'll see it when you get it, but it's not binding until you're not under contract until the seller says you are. And that's the beauty of that. So you can send multiple counter offers, get someone to accept it, then the seller can do a deeper digging to find out which buyer is going to be the best buyer for their situation to make sure that they're going to get to close and cross that finish line. So, just wanted to make sure you're there, that you use this one. Rob, can you as a listing agent still keep negotiating? Of course, because you're not under contract until the seller says you are. Right, right. So until there's an accepted offer, we're still negotiating on that. So great question. Anyway, I'm just going to move on, but just remember, it's go time. So have fun, Shoni.
What time is it? It's go time. Perfect. So how many of you feel like you could be a little bit more accountable in life? How many of you feel like that's kind of a challenge, is to hold yourself accountable? The reality is that I do believe it's a muscle, it's a skill set, but it's also never going to be perfect. And I just want to kind of look at maybe a different perspective or view when we have this conversation of being accountable. And how many of you have read the book Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink? Okay. Whoa. Only 2 of you? Okay. That might be a book then we have to put on the shelf. This book, is he a Navy SEAL? Is that his background? And he has also just some YouTube content, a little harsh if you're going to watch any of his content, but his book's great about understanding the importance of accountability in life. And we're actually going to look at it from a lens of inspecting the different areas of our lives and saying, well, how can we be a little bit more accountable in each, what I'll call the riches of life? Okay. And this level of accountability has an advantage. It gives us better results, more fulfillment, more money in our business, and ultimately the results that we're looking for. We have essentially half the year left. Now, how many of you take December off? We know how the commission checks work here. So we know most of you take off in December, right? And so the reality is you probably only have 5 months left. Now, how many of you take July off too? Talina, what travels have you got planned? So the reality is you probably only have 4 months because you've also got Thanksgiving you've got to fit in there. And Halloween. and kids going back to school in August, right? And so the reality is that if you actually look at the days that you truly have to work, you're probably 15-ish days a month with all the things that pop up in life. You don't really have 20 full work days. And so those days that you have on, you really need to be on, right? You need to hold yourself accountable and make sure that you're executing on those on days so that you can enjoy the holidays and the events, and the kids need to be dropped off at sporting events and things like that, right? So this, I'm reading this book actually right now, I'm not all the way through it. It's called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza. Has anybody heard his story? So this, if you go to YouTube and type in Impact Theory, it's a podcast by Tom Bilyeu. He was the founder of Quest Nutrition. He sold that company for $1 billion in about 2010 timeline. And he went on to start just creating content, interviewing really impactful and inspiring individuals. Well, Dr. Joe Dispenza is one of the individuals he interviews. This man was hit by a car while he was riding his bike. And I don't know the logistics of all the damage that was done, but essentially he had brain damage and then also either broke his spine or his neck, something pretty radical. And the doctors essentially said that he's not going to walk again. And he goes through and explains how through the really having a certain set of beliefs himself, using affirmations and a way of believing, he was able to, over time, work his body back to full health, which doctors say was a miracle. And he says, it is a miracle, but it's also some of the mental beliefs that I had of where I wanted to get my body back to. And in this book, he talks about how if you want a new outcome, you have to break the habit of being yourself and reinvent a new self. So what we're going to talk about is if you look at your health, your wealth, your relationships, your finances, any of these areas of your life that are important to you, the results you have in that area of your life is a direct correlation to what you've put into it energy-wise. Okay. And so if we want to improve a certain area of life, we have to get purposeful around it. So this is from the book, The Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. It says the ownership mindset. Extreme ownership means you must own everything in your world. There is no one else to blame. No circumstances, no environments that we can put to blame. It is everything that we have in any category of life. We have to take 100% responsibility and zero excuses. So own all results, both successes and failures, and then eliminate blame from your vocabulary. And this unlocks unlimited personal growth opportunity. We're going to watch, how many of you are familiar with Bob Proctor? Okay. This might be before your time. This is before my time. But Dean, you probably know the name. He was the original, I would say not the original, one of the original Tony Robbins type figures. Tony actually talks about learning a lot from him as well as Jim Rohn. And Bob Proctor has a great philosophy on life. We're going to just watch the first 4 minutes of this. I recommend that sometime this week, you go watch the full 20-minute segment of this clip because this is a powerful lesson.
Let me get back to you if I can. What did you learn
Start
about
from
Bob
the beginning.
Proctor during that study? You attended seminars and you said your reason there was to learn more about yourself.
Yeah.
My experience has been people attend seminars, especially self-development seminars, to look for the answer. They want to know, what is it out there I can learn so that I can be more successful? That wasn't your motivation?
No, oddly enough. And I think probably you're right. I think that's what most people are looking for. I think they're looking for an answer outside of themselves, and they're never going to find it. I think by this time I realized it was something in me. I met a man here in Toronto. He was one that originally got me involved in studying this, Ray Stanford. And he told me if I didn't like the results I was getting in my life, that I was going to have to change me because they were my results. And he said, if you're going to change you, you're going to have to find out something about yourself. And that seemed to make sense.
Mhm.
I don't think it was an earth-shattering idea. It wouldn't give anybody a brain hernia, but it made a hell of a lot of sense to me. So I started to study myself. I found most people don't know who they are. They really don't.
What do you mean? I mean, I know my name, I know my age, I know where I
Yeah, that's
live.
not
What
you,
else
though.
is there?
You know,
I
that's
know what
just it.
size.
If you ask the average person who they are, they'll give you their name. They'll say, I'm Bob Proctor, but I'm not. Bob and Proctor are two words. My parents give them to me. They're called names, but it's not me. It's my name. Then somebody will say, well, this is me, but this isn't me either. It's my body. Like you never phone down here to the studio and say, body won't be in today. It's sick.
Okay.
You know, we don't say am hand or am leg. It's my hand, my leg, my body, my name. Who am I? Well, that's an interesting question.
Mhm.
And I believe if a person will start to study that and look for the answer, they'll find it. See, I think we live simultaneously on three planes of understanding. We're
Okay.
spiritual creatures, we have an intellect, and we live in physical bodies.
Okay.
But because we lack awareness or understanding of who we are, we're totally locked into a physical world, and we let things outside of us control us. 95% of the population are reacting to life. They're not really living at all.
Okay. And would you call that one of the barriers to success?
Oh, there's no question about it. I think there's two barriers. Success is a funny word. Nightingale had a great definition for it. He said a person's successful if they know where they are and they know where they're going and they're progressively moving in that direction. He said that success was the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Anyone that has a goal and they're moving towards it, they're successful. Most people think that you're successful if you have a lot of money. Quite often you have a lot of money if you're successful, but it isn't. I wouldn't say Mother Teresa has a lot of money,
Okay.
but she's a pretty successful lady. So it's
So that barrier to success.
well, there's a
react-
couple of them.
Okay.
I think there's two barriers. One is our conditioning, the conditioning that takes place in our subconscious mind from the time we're infants. All we can do is act and talk like the people around us. That's why we learn the language we learned. If there was 10 languages spoken in our home, we'd learn 10 languages without any trouble.
Hmm.
There's usually one, and that's the only one we ever learn. And we grow older and we think, well, I couldn't learn another language. We could learn 100 if we wanted to. You can do anything. But I think we're conditioned. We have a real strong conditioning, usually with not some very good ideas. And then that's the barrier that's inside us. The one that's outside of us is our environment. We have a tendency to act like everybody around us. And if you think about this, it does make a lot of sense, because if you study statistics, 95% of the people live their entire life and never live the way they want to live. You know that 95% of the population in this country, let's say in North America,
Okay.
the richest continent in the history of the world, they'll work productively, let's say for 40 of their 65 years.
Okay.
And they'll end up with hardly any money. There's got to be something wrong.
So there's not much.
5% of the people end up financially comfortable or independent.
Are you trying to depress us, Bob? Because that's
No, actually, I think it's quite an exciting idea, because you see, the idea behind it is that anybody can win, anyone at all. But if we start studying these statistics, I think we'll arrive at the conclusion, geez, I better start thinking for myself rather than follow everybody. Most people, they get a job, they look around, they see how everybody else is doing their work, and they start doing it the same way.
Mhm.
They should stop and think, I wonder if any of these people know what they're doing. You know, is there a better way to do it?
What, don't we have a need to fit in? I mean, we don't want to stand out. We don't want to get fired. We don't want to make waves.
Exactly. Just fall into line, take a number, be like everybody around. That'd be great in the animal kingdom. But human beings aren't supposed to live that way. I think we should make a few waves. We should maybe stand out, be different, not for the sake of being different,
Okay.
but because we are different. We all think different thoughts. And I believe we should start to think and build images in our mind of what we'd like to do and then set out and do it.
Okay.
Emerson did that, Edison did that, Marconi did that, Samuel Morse did that, Buckminster Fuller did that. We could go on and on and on.
So, two things that I want you to lock in on. Did anybody catch what how he proclaimed or talked about success? He gave a definition of success. Yeah. It's the progressive realization of a worthy goal, right? So we're simply just progressing. It's not about perfection, but we're in the pursuit of something that's better, right? And I want you to think about all areas of your life. The reality is, a lot of the results that we have actually did start with the second thing he talked about was conditioning. Okay. In what ways are we conditioned in society or in our upbringing? How does conditioning happen? Probably starts as a kid. Things you're told, your environment, the things you see, maybe the things you're not even told, that's just how you see your parents live life. Right? Typically, their health habits become your health habits, or their financial beliefs become your financial beliefs, or their personal growth journey kind of becomes your personal growth journey. And so what we have to do, what I love his perspective on, is that we have to actually pause, reflect, and actually inspect the beliefs that we have and say, are these beliefs my own, or are they beliefs that I have adopted over time through my family upbringing, through school that I went through nowadays social media that I'm consuming, through the Netflix shows that I'm consuming. All of these things are consistently conditioning our psychology, which ends up impacting the results that we have. So if we look at health, health is the foundation. So let's just talk about extreme ownership in this category of life. Without health, nothing else matters. Would you guys agree with that? Has anybody had a cold, a really bad cold, and you're like, I don't even care if I'm going to just quit my job. I don't even care about real estate anymore, right? Or you have COVID or some sickness and you're like, man, it's the end of the world, and literally nothing else matters, right? So we know health is one of the most important areas or dynamics that we should focus on. I might butcher the quote, but it's something to the extent of, the healthy man has 1,000 wishes, the sick man has but one. Right? And so we really need to take ownership of our health and ask, how are we treating our body, right? What are we doing proactively to ensure that we're maximizing our health or improving it, right? Start small. So choose one habit, even if it's just walking, even if it's just proper hydration, okay? Figure out how to stack habits. So get clear about your patterns. What are some of the things that you do first thing in the morning, and how might you be able to set up a lead domino? For example, for me, I found if I put my gym clothes out the night before, guess how much easier it is for me to actually go and exercise that next morning? Just a simple little habit, right? So stack some habits and build a system. Again, that example is also a system where you build this routine that actually helps it or makes it easier for you to pay attention to your health. Another system is I love sweet foods. Does anybody in here love cookies or ice cream or swig? Right? So what I had to do is put on my Google Calendar, because I time block everything. Now I have a lunch time block, and if I'm just say, what should I go grab for lunch? And what will pop into my head is just like whatever sounds good in the moment, right? Donuts, ice cream. Well, what I started to do is say, well, what are some of the places that actually have good, healthy options that I could choose from? Let me put a list of the 10 different places that I can go to that have good options on there. And I just put those on my calendar as a time block in the description. So now if I say, well, I want something for lunch, I don't already have something pre-planned, I can just open my calendar and say, well, what are the options that fit within my health goals, right? So that's, again, just a system that you can set up. Because I found, again, I would just open Google Maps and say, okay, what's open and what's close, what's convenient. But now I say, no, these are my approved places that I can go grab food from that have something that fits my health dynamic. You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Small, consistent changes create massive results. That quote was from a book called Atomic Habits by James Clear. Wealth, financial mastery. The moment you take responsibility for everything in your life is the moment you can change anything in your life. And it's not your salary that makes you rich, it's your spending habits. Okay. We've shared this story. I can't recall the gentleman's name, but he worked at UPS for 40 years. And he retired with something crazy, like $60 million in retirement. And he was a $12,000 annual salary. This is many, many years ago. And he ended up giving half of it away to charity when he passed. And what happened was he was just investing consistently, and the compounding effect took over. never earned more than $12,000. Funny enough, he worked at UPS and he just kept buying their stock. Now they've grown as a company, right? So his stock blew up over that time period, but he had a consistent routine of investing. And what I recommend is it starts down here with this professional budgeting or this discipline with our personal expenses and our business expenses. Novely, you've got a class coming up, right? Agent Financials. When is that?
It's June 26th and is going to be from 1 to 3. So that's a Thursday. And we'd love to have everybody attend.
Yeah. So Agent Financials is specifically how do you hold every dollar accountable in your business and ensure that you're investing for growth of your business, right? And spending the money the right way. You also need to do that for personal accounting, your personal budget and expenses. Self-education. Invest in learning that builds your expertise or your skill set. I've shared many times that one of the best investments you can make is yourself. And it comes down to saying, well, what skill set is going to pay me in perpetuity forever, right? And in really crafting or building those skill sets that are going to help you thrive. And then lastly, invest, right? Which we talked about. So build wealth through creating a habit of investing, and it starts with $5. Meaning, if you're not going to start investing when you only have $5 to invest, you're not going to do it when you have $100,000 to invest. You have to build the habit and the principle of consistently investing, starting small. The same thing goes when it comes to charity and giving. Give when you only have $1 to give. And keep that routine going as you grow your financial ability. Formal education will make you a living. Self-education will make you a fortune. That's from Jim Rohn. So financial freedom comes down from boring, consistent habits applied daily, small action compounds into remarkable results. So this next one, I'm going to give you a personal example. Does anybody know where I started working my first job? I've said this before. It's before sales. McDonald's when I was 16. Yep. I actually was 15 and a half, and I lied on my application. They hired me. They said, hey, within 2 weeks, you have to bring in your ID or whatever. They then fired me and said, we will hire you when you turn 16 years old. Okay. I had to pay for my own gas money, my cell phone. So I was like, man, how can I earn more money than just doing random, landscaping occasionally? So McDonald's was really my first job. Now this was in 2007. Somebody want to guess what I was earning per hour? $2? Jen, is that what you're putting on my, that's all you think I'm worth? $6.55 an hour. Okay. Now I worked there throughout my entire high school career. So 2010, anybody want to guess what I was earning when I graduated high school? $7.25. It's a pretty big raise, right? Now, who decided what an hour of my life was worth in that moment? McDonald's did. Yeah. 16, I didn't know any better, right? Accountability. Thanks, Jen. Extreme ownership, right? Here's the thing. How many of you started with a job where they're the ones that decided what you were going to earn? Okay. So is that a form of conditioning? Is somebody else telling you what an hour of your life is worth? Right? So one of the things, hear me now on this, is you have to get clear about the financial level that you've been earning the last couple of years is probably consistent with whatever you're programmed for, whatever you accepted. So for me, obviously I didn't catch this early on. It wasn't until my sales career where I started watching these videos like Bob Proctor, the Jim Rohns, the Tony Robbins, and this was 2013 timeline. And I was at this time, I was in Virginia Beach. So I was doing door-to-door sales, and I had learned about the power of affirmations. And if I would start to do these incantations, is what Tony Robbins calls them, I can actually reshape my belief system, right? So I'm going to share the one that I used for my finances. Now you can do this for any area of your life, but I would say over and over again, between knocking doors, I'd repeat this. I'd have 8 hours of just walking from door to door, and you'd only get probably 2 or 3 sales in a day. So guess how many no's you get in a day? A lot, right? or door slammed in the face, or dogs chasing you, all these random things that would happen. But in between each door, I would say this over and over and over again. I would say, I am a magnet to money. I have more than I need. I'm a magnet to money. Money loves me. I'm going to say it again. And I'd punch my hand while I'm walking with my iPad in my arm. And I said, I'm a magnet to money. I have more than I need. I'm a magnet to money. Money loves me. And I would say this over and over and over. Hopefully you can kind of feel the energy, because automatically more energy would come into my life. And this is what took me from $40,000 my first summer to over $370,000 my last summer, in a summer, not a year. Okay. And so for me, I believe that these incantations or these belief systems, and you can think of any area of your life, whether it's your health, your relationships, all these things have a certain level of conditioning that you have to reprogram, right? So think through, well, what are some of the different belief systems? And I'll throw this was my personal one. This one I actually hijacked it from Tony Robbins. He's the one that I stumbled across a YouTube video and I was like, oh, that sounds good. I started doing it over and over and over again. And I did this for about 5 years. And again, if you look at your health, you look at your relationships, you can do something very similar with recreating these belief systems that you might have in a certain area of your life. Okay. So I'm going to send this out for time. We don't have time to watch this video, but I will send it out in our slides so you have access to it. This is a great one. And this just talks about how important it is to understand what your career is actually contributing to. What's the bigger purpose that's important to you? If you're just doing this for a paycheck, there's a lot more places out there that are easier to actually get a paycheck, right? Most people, most of your clients have no clue what goes on behind the scenes to get a deal to the finish line, right? This is a pretty intense space to be in, but also can provide some of the most flexible and freedom timeline and income earning abilities out there. And so we want to raise our standards when it comes to our career. Setting micro goals is a great place to start. So breaking down big targets to daily actionable steps, and then dominate these consistently to build momentum. So oftentimes we'll set an annual goal. The challenge is we don't break that down into small enough bite-sized chunks. So we need to say, well, if my goal is X amount over the year, what does that mean for daily actions? What does that mean I have to do this week or this month, and just focus on that alone, right? Tracking performance. Tony Robbins, in his business mastery course, he talks about how most people will set a target for the year and they'll track once a year. And that's why you end up with bad years. And he says, well, the people that track on a monthly basis, they have 12 times that they can make adjustments. They're going to end up with a far better result than the person who only tracks once a year. And then there are some people who track once a week, and then some people who track daily. Who do you think is going to have the competitive advantage? The daily tracking. You have 200 and something days to make micro adjustments, right? And that's where, to make this not overwhelming, you just want to find what is the 1 or 2 KPIs, the key performance indicators, the small action steps that I can track, that's manageable, that I know is going to impact the result. If we were to say there's one KPI that matters in real estate and getting better results in our career, what would you guys say it is? Making calls. It's a good lead measure. What's the one core metric that determines our income? Appointments. Listing appointments and buyer consultations. Right? You can't skip that right to a closing. You at least have to have a phone call, right? Some of those situations, I have some clients from California where we didn't go through a legit like buyer consultation. They were a referral. They're like, hey, we just did a 1031 exchange. We need to buy something like right now. But I still had to have a conversation, right? What's important to you? What are you guys trying to get with this rental property? What's the ultimate outcome? What's your buy box? Are you guys looking for appreciation, cash flow? So I had to still go through that process. But the one thing that we can focus on tracking is how many appointments are we having each month? That leads to our ultimate financial goal. How many of you track your appointments on a monthly basis? How many of you just wing it? Oh, it's good to be honest. which isn't a bad thing, but it's probably not going to get you the results that you want. Okay. Small, slight tweak. It does not take a lot to track how many appointments did I have this week. You can look back at your calendar, just say, did I have an appointment or 2 or 3? Great. Let me write that down. Right. So that one's the easy one to track. Measure what matters daily, and you cannot lose. Celebrate the wins. I recommend building some sort of cookie jar. That's what I'll call it, which is something that is, you need to pause and celebrate, right? How many of you have some sort of way to reward yourself when you achieve something? Okay. How many of you are going to be motivated to go achieve something again if you don't reward yourself? Right? You have to make winning fun. So think of what are some of those things that I can put on the target list where I can say, hey, if I sell this many homes, this becomes the reward that I'm going to give to my family or myself, whatever it might be. And you can think of not just in your career, but you can do health goals, right? Say, hey, if I go and run for this many days, or I exercise this many days in a month, then I'm going to go get a massage, or I'm going to go X, Y, Z, right? So reward yourself. Reward the action. Relationships. This was wise counsel from one of my good friends and mentors early on. And he said that what you appreciate appreciates. So that's the one thing that you want to remember when it comes to relationships. Okay. So we're all in real estate. What does appreciation mean? Increase in value, right? So the greatest way to increase the value of a relationship is actually to tell that person or show that person that you appreciate that relationship. Okay. So have that in the back of your mind of what you appreciate appreciates. Some just simple strategies with this. Number one is listen. Listen to understand, not to respond. How many men in this room are married? If I raise a hand, or have a significant other? Okay. How many of you have had this situation where your spouse or your partner is saying something that is wrong, there's a challenge, and then you say, I have a solution. Here's how you can fix the problem. And then you give that problem and you do not get the response that you thought you were going to get. How many of you have been in that situation? I'm a professional problem solver, right? And so I think, or I used to think when I was first married, that anytime my wife had a problem, I just give her the solution. Oh, here's the way to fix it. Figured that was actually not the right way to go, right? So what they really want you to do is listen to understand, not to respond. You want to use connective language, learn how others prefer to give and receive love. There's a book called The 5 Love Languages, which is a really good one, which is understanding what the other person actually appreciates and values. Take responsibility, lead with accountability instead of reactivity, and then consistent presence. So show up reliably in ways that matter to them. The quality of your life is the quality of your relationships. Personal growth, input determines output. So daily development, this is a very simple one that was very helpful for me starting out, was to read 10 pages a day. And if you look at it, it's not about, hey, I'm going to just knock out an entire book all in one sitting. It's about saying, well, if I can build just the habit of reading 10 minutes for 10 pages a day, what does that actually equate to over the course of a year? How many pages is that? Any of our math wizards in here? Bless you. 3,600 pages. How many books is that? A lot of books, right? There's the saying that leaders are readers. There's a Forbes article that I saw around how many books a CEO on average reads per year. Does anybody know that number? Seen that article? Average is 50 books a year. You look at people like Warren Buffett, he would say how many hours, I can't remember the number, but it's somewhere like 4 or 5 hours a day that he would just read. And he actually ties that to the amount of success that he's had financially. So just daily develops a simple habit. Reading is the one I recommend, but you can look at other habits that you can put into practice. The non-negotiable habit compounds dramatically over time. Applied learning. So implement one new idea weekly. Knowledge without action creates no change. We've talked about this, that education without implementation is a form of entertainment. Unfortunately, we are in a day and age where we like to be entertained. So we go to the movie theater, or we watch Netflix, or we jump on social media. We like that. But in a professional setting, we actually have to go implement what we learn. So that's equally as important as showing up to the classroom. And then growth circle. Surround yourself with people who challenge you. Your environment shapes your potential. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. That's wise counsel from Jim Rohn. And the last piece on this is that growth isn't a season, it's a daily decision. Small, consistent improvements create extraordinary results. The last one, and we'll wrap up. The last area to take extreme ownership in is your community and contribution. And these are the things that we can give. It does not always need to be monetary. It does not always need to be money that we give. We can give our time. We can give, obviously, our resources, money, financial contributions. We can give our kindness, and we can give our attention. And so just think about how you can impact and help other people. And this simple saying is that the secret to living is giving. When you give, you don't lose. You expand, and contribution creates meaning beyond success. You can't see this very well down here, but it says, own every moment so you never look back wishing that you'd given more. That's the last piece of recommendation that I would give you, is to be very hyper aware of what you're going to be fulfilled by on your rocking chair. We've talked about this many times. When you're 70 years old, you're not going to tell people how many homes you sold in 2005. You're not going to care about it. Okay. What you're going to care about is how you impacted or how you showed up for other people, or what other people might say how you impacted them. And so be very purposeful and intentional about how you live today. This is the challenge. Choose one action, just as you had some thoughts come to your mind. Choose the areas of your life that you feel like need the biggest level of accountability boost, and say, what's the one thing I can do in this area that can add some a little bit extra accountability and help me to improve in that category of life? And then track your results. Very simple. Just have some way of being able to check in and say, am I on progress? Am I improving this category? And I promise, ultimately, all of this that we just talked about is going to help you earn more money at the end of the year. Okay. So having better health, having better relationships, having a well-rounded life actually improves the results in your career. Okay. Awesome. One or two ahas, and then we'll jump to lunch. One or two things that stood out to you today.
I loved your aha when you said you have multiple options for going out to lunch that have good choices for you, if it's going to keep you, on goal.
Thank you. Amy? And then Lucy.
I put like a reminder every night, I'm going to read 10 pages a day. It's so easy to get distracted with something a little bit faster pace. I have all these books by my nightstand. I want to get through them and I'm not. So 10 pages a day seems totally doable. Readers are leaders. I like that.
Lucy, did you have something?
I think I just want to get back to the mantras again, because those have been really helpful for me. So it was great.
Awesome. Okay, just a reminder, raise your hand if you're in the More Club. Raise your hand if you're coming on the Parade of Homes tour today. Okay. Just a reminder, Parade of Homes tour for More Club is at 12:30. We'll just meet in the lobby, and then we have some plans to coordinate car pooling groups. But enjoy lunch. Thank you for our lunch sponsors. So grateful to have you guys. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the week.